In this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 golden rules to real estate investing. And this comes from a lot of trial and error, a lot of pain, a lot of success, and a lot of failure in my 20 years of real estate investing. So let's get started. Number 1 is to buy right. Now, this may seem simplistic, but I'm going to tell you what I mean, because there's 2 parts of buying right when I think of buying right. Number 1 is there's the right location. Now, for a lot of people, they are chasing returns, and I think that's okay if you're trying to chase cash flow. Let's say you live in California and you want to invest in Alabama or Ohio, then I think that's okay. But you still have to be very, very, very careful about where you're buying. The location is so very important, because in a lot of these value add areas, these cash flowing areas, not only are you looking for the right area / neighborhood zip code, you're also looking a lot of times for the right neighborhood and street. Some of these things can be street by street. So these are the things that I look for when I'm trying to direct investors where to invest in particular areas of the country. We want to talk about property value appreciation. Like generally some of the low class neighborhoods, what I would say D class neighborhoods, don't have a lot of appreciation over time. You may get a little rent appreciation, but not a lot of property appreciation. So you want to go where there is good rental appreciation, because that is going to build equity as well as paying down the loan. Next is neighborhood safety. You want to avoid high crime. You want to avoid high crime areas. These areas are not going to be good when your house is vacant. It's going more than likely be vandalized. You could have things stolen. It's just not a good idea to go into high crime areas just to chase returns. Don't do that. Also, you really want to think about future development. You know, one of the things that we used to look for is Amazon opening a distribution center. Well, Amazon's everywhere now, so that doesn't really play the part, but is the area experiencing any kind of revitalization downtown, in the downtown area, or in the area that you're looking to buy in? So think about future development. What is planned? You can find this with local, the business journals in these local areas. You can ask around to other property managers and find out what is happening in these areas to see if, hey, there's some growth potential or there's a growth path in this area that you're looking. And then just like market stability is really good. I like C-class neighborhoods. These are middle of the road working class neighborhoods. They're not the A class is super high income areas. B class is upper middle class. And C class to me is working class. I think these are the best for a combination of appreciation, market stability, and cash flow. So buy the right location, and then next is buy the right price. I mean, come on. This takes a ton of just patience and discipline. I think discipline's the biggest one, because when you have your buy box and you know what you're looking for, you know the area that you're looking for, you know what? It's going to take discipline to really stick to that buy box, stick to the numbers, the return you're looking for, so that you don't overpay for something and it just throws your entire investment off. I've seen this happen. I've seen people get so excited about the potential of owning rental property that they overpay for something and they regret it every single month. They regret overpaying for that rental property. It never works out. They end up usually selling the property at a loss down the road, and it's just not good. So the things you want to look at, obviously we're looking for your return on investment is going to improve if you're buying it right. Now, something else I will say, you may have to make 10, 20 offers before you get one accepted. That is okay. That's okay. When you find an investor-friendly agent, they're used to doing that. If you need one, we have them at Evernest. We have a lot of investor-friendly agents. They're used to making a lot of offers. This is going to be really, really important. You want to maximize your ROI. You want to lower your risk. Obviously, if you're paying less, it's going to give you more room. When you find something in that property you didn't expect, maybe something that an inspector skipped, you still want to be able to You want to be able to have room in there so that you're not so tight. You don't want to be squeezing to make those numbers work. You want to make sure that you have cushion. So lower risk, it's also going to lower risk. Also, obviously you're going to have higher equity from day one. And then lastly, room for renovation and improvement. Now, we've already talked about this, but you should be making an offer based on your estimated repair cost. But then when you have somebody go out, say an inspector go out, they're going to send you this big report. You may find other things in there that you weren't prepared for. That's when you can renegotiate that price. You want to make sure you're not just because you're so anxious to get started that you're not overpaying for this property. So right location, right price. That's rule number one to real estate investing. This is a golden rule number one. So what's number two? Next is leverage wisely. Oh my goodness. I can tell you a story that happened recently where a guy was so excited about buying property. He went and borrowed some people's money, some investor money, and then he bought a package of properties, and it turned out to be a nightmare. As soon as he bought it, 2 months later, there were 3 vacancies. There was repairs that he didn't know needed to be made. There was all kinds of things that happened, and he had borrowed somebody's money, leveraged to the hilt. He didn't have a lot of cash flow to pay for all of this. Then he had these vacancies. It turned out to be a nightmare. So what are the things here? There's 2 things I think about when I think about leveraging wisely. I think of just a healthy loan to value. This is what we're thinking about here. You don't want to over leverage. You don't want to have a $250,000 house and you're leveraged to the max on that property. So you want to definitely have better financing terms, lower long-term borrowing costs. Lenders often offer lower interest rates and better loan conditions when you have a lower loan to value, right? So if you can go to the bank and show them, hey, this is a $150,000 property and I'm paying $100 for it, they're going to appreciate the fact that you're buying that at a really discounted rate, and especially if it doesn't need much work. And so you're going to have a better loan to value on that property. Also, resilience in market fluctuations. Things change, right? So things change. Sometimes the rental market is super hot and you find people right away. Other times it takes a little bit longer to find a great resident and place them in that property. And so I would say when you have a healthy loan to value, then you're more resilient in market fluctuations, right? So it's going to protect you from being underwater, obviously, and greater equity allows for easier refinancing, loan modifications, and then selling without a loss. If for some reason you have to sell, if you own this property and you've gotten a good price, you don't have a massive loan on it, then you're going to be able to sell it, and that's going to be extremely helpful, beneficial to you. Also, cash reserves. When I think about leveraging wisely, I think about having cash reserves. I can't tell you how many people get into real estate without this idea that you need to have an emergency fund. You need to be setting aside money for repairs and maintenance. You need to set aside money for CapEx expenditures. There's going to be a roof at some point. There's going to be HVAC. There's going to be hot water heater. Those are the 3 that I like to point out are most common. But you're going to need cash reserves. And so if you get into this business, if you're buying rental property and you think, hey, the cash flow is this $250 of cash flow, or even if you had $500 a month cash flow is really going to be my cash reserves, forget about it. You need to be very, very careful. Leverage yourself wisely. This is the second golden rule. You don't want to be too tight. You're going to be able to handle unexpected repairs. You're going to avoid financial stress. When people have financial stress, they make poor decisions. This is what happens when people are under financial stress, they make poor decisions. This happens all the time. Don't be that person. Don't put yourself under too much stress. And then you want to have flexibility for opportunities. Like having cash on hand will allow you to maybe invest in another property, or if you have that amount of cash in hand, you can do this again and again. And again, you may have CapEx expenditures. You're going to have to, you're not going to have to come out of pocket. You're going to have those cash reserves there to install that new HVAC system that happened to go out July 4th weekend, and your residents are upset and they're ready for air. So these types of things happen. Second golden rule is just leverage wisely. So what is number 3? And then I'm going to tell you at the very end, I'm going to tell you just one that I've been thinking of recently that I didn't want to make 4, but I'm going to give you a bonus one. So the third one is manage efficiently. This is huge. If you don't find a great resident, it doesn't matter what you paid for the property or what place you bought it in. Like, it doesn't matter if you had the right place, the right property, and you didn't pay very much and you have cash reserves. If you don't find the right resident, you can completely dismantle your investment. So I had this happen. I bought this great property. It was in the right place. I had the right price for it. I think I paid $85,000. It was about $135,000 property. And so the numbers were going to work. I was leasing it for $1,000 a month. And I got really tired of going over there and showing that property because it was about a 30-minute drive from where my office was. So I kept having to drive over there and show it. So what did I do? I made this huge mistake of softening up my screening criteria. And so what I did was when the next person that came to me and they wanted to rent it and they seemed pretty legit, I was like, you know what? I trust them. It was a mother and it was a daughter. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. They had the money. They had the deposit. Then they had the first month's rent. And I was like, I'm going to do it. And so what did I do? I rented it. And within 3 to 6 months in, they had stopped paying. They had pets against the lease. I had to go through a formal eviction process. Then the animals tore up my house. So that cost me another $7,000 or $8,000 to renovate that property again. Not a full renovation, but to clean it up. Had to paint, had to refinish the hardwoods. Like, it was a total mess. That's when I turned that property over to Evernest. I wasn't working with Evernest at that point. I was a client. I had rental properties. I gave that property to Evernest. They placed a tenant in there. This resident lasted for 10 years. There's a huge difference between an eviction on month 6 and having somebody in there for 10 years. So finding great residents is imperative. This is going to give you consistent rental income. Obviously, lower vacancy rates. When you have somebody in 10 years, it's a lot better than having somebody move out every 12 months. You're going to reduce property damage. What I found is that great residents will tell you when something's wrong. And they'll expect you to fix it. And that's okay because you want to keep them happy. Keeping a great resident in that property is the key. That's how you make money. You don't make money otherwise. And then just less hassle and stress. That property that had the resident in there for 10 years, I had less stress over that property than any other property. And when she finally gave me notice that she was moving, my resident, she had, it was she and her 2 boys. And they guess what? They grew up in that house. When she gave me notice, I tried everything I could to keep her to stay. Like, I'm not going to raise rent. I would, try to convince her to stay, do whatever. But eventually, she said, "Hey, listen, life's changed for us, so we had to move out." I get it. I love that resident. So you also, this is the golden rule. Not only do you buy right in the right location and do proper financing, don't get over leverage, but you have to find the resident. That's it. And then keeping that great resident. That was the whole point, is I was able to keep them 10 years. If you're replacing a resident every 12 months, you will never make money in this business because every single time you're going to have to go in, you're going to have to do touch-up paint, you're going to have to clean the carpets, you're going to have vacancy. It's never going to work out. So you need to be thinking, how do I keep great residents? I've had friends that gave gift cards. They would do Christmas gifts. They would write letters to their resident all the time, like thank you letters, give them a Starbucks gift card. There's all kinds of things that you can do to have a great resident experience. Here at Evernest, we're always thinking about execution. How can we execute on what we say we're going to do? How can we not only find the best residents, but how can we keep them long-term? And the best way we can do that is by upholding our end of the bargain, making sure they have a great place to live, making sure if there's a problem, we take care of it as soon as we possibly can. Those things are how you keep a great resident. I mean, honestly, a great resident doesn't really want you in their business too much. And so it's okay if you aren't reaching out to them all the time. Just give them a great place to live and make them feel like they're valuable, right? So it gives you consistent cash flow, and this is the big one, just reduce turnover costs. And that's the big expense is the turnover. We call these turnovers whenever a resident moves out, that's a turnover, and the big costs are what I mentioned before, vacancy and just any kind of repairs that need to be made. So that's it. Those buy right, leverage wisely, manage efficiently. And then the fourth one I would say of all these is, and I've kind of mentioned it before, is to be patient. Be patient. Be patient with buying these properties. I understand that you want to jump on this right away, but be patient. We used to get about 100 calls a month for people looking to sell property, and then we would end up making 20 or 30 offers. We'd buy 3 or 4 houses every single month. For you, if you're not professionally doing this full time, then you may buy one property every 6 months, one property every 8 or 9 months. That doesn't matter. Stay disciplined. You'll get better and better at it. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you're going to build a rental portfolio. You'll have 10 properties, and it's going to be amazing. So that's it. We hope you like this. Go ahead and like and subscribe, and we'll be back with more investor videos just like this one.